Awesome. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We're so excited for you to be here. I think you're in for an amazing, amazing treat and experience today. You're going to get to learn some really amazing things. I wanted to introduce to you Jenny Rosengren. She is the creator of My Perfection Healing, and she's going to teach you about drawing energy and how to use that and how to physically use that today. She's a very gifted teacher. She loves God. She's very, very, very committed to doing what he asks her to do. It's been something that I've really learned from her and appreciated from her example and from her teachings. She is married to Kent, who's a psychologist, and she has 8 beautiful children that she homeschools in her spare time. So without further ado, we'll welcome Jenny.
Thank you, Michelle. Michelle is like my right-hand person. I started this modality back in August, and it has been a roller coaster ride of just so much speed. And I totally love what I do and love what I teach. And this is a challenge that I've accepted. This class that I teach is usually 5 hours long. And so I've had to try and condense because I want to give you the best experience possible with really feeling what energy feels like and how to move that. I'm going to be talking for a little bit, explaining about my modality, and then we'll get into the hands-on work. So I believe that everything is, the light of Christ flows in and through everything that God has created for us. And everything has its own essence of how it radiates that light. And as divine children of God, we have the ability to connect to that energy and become a conduit, act as a conduit, and draw that energy up through us to be able to offer it to others. If you think about energy, it's similar to electricity. It travels in waves. And we have wireless devices today that are able to get signals and send them. We are so magnificently made that we are able to do this with our faith. At the core of what I teach is faith in the atonement of Jesus Christ. That is what truly heals us, and then being able to utilize this powerful tool of knowing how to connect to that light of Christ. So everything that has a light of Christ has its own essence, like I said. So each one of individually, you have your own essence of how you radiate that. Plants, trees, animals, water. And those things resonate with us, and they help heal us at a deep cellular level. So for some people, going to the ocean is incredibly healing to their spirits and their souls, while others, it's the mountains, crisp mountain scenes with beautiful evergreen trees. And so we all know that there are certain things that resonate with us that maybe don't resonate with others, but we know it's healing to ourselves. And so through the Spirit, we are able to connect to what the person, if we're working on a client or someone, connect through the Spirit to be able to know what this person needs to resonate with them, to be able to help them have incredible healing shifts. Am I really not? Nobody's ever said I'm not loud enough. I came from a family of 7 kids. I don't know how to make this work. Sounds like, is that better? Okay. Do I need to repeat anything that I said before? I really don't. If it's possible. So light of Christ, we'll make it simple. Light of Christ flows through everything. We as divine beings have the ability to tap into that and be able to offer it to other people. And different energies resonate with people and help them heal at a cellular level. So for some people that might be the ocean, for others the mountains. And listening to the Spirit to be able to prompt us to know what to heal for that person is vital. It's core to what I teach in my method. Why is it okay to use energy? I mean, most of us are here. We're at the Energy Healing Conference, so we feel like it's okay. But for me, it was a a journey to be able to realize energy just is. It's not good or bad necessarily. It's like a piece of wood. People can use a piece of wood to create something beautiful and magnificent, or they can use it as a weapon. So making sure that the people that we go to that act as healers or conduits for this energy, we want to make sure that they're in a place and aligned with God, and that their highest purpose is in alignment with God. I teach that we are not the healer. We are conduits for the energy that God has given us to be able to use as a tool. All of our bodies innately know how to heal. They have an inner physician. And as I teach my students, we work to be able to work in harmony with that inner physician, with the Spirit of God guiding us. I forgot to bring my picture. So you have your book? Does anyone have a book that they bought for me today? Thank you. Hey, she's got one, Linnell, thanks. Okay, so perfection, I'll use it in just a second. Perfection is the goal. This is what I teach in my method. This is one of the reasons it's called my perfection healing. Let's pretend that I don't have even a dry erase board. Your friend just got in a car accident, and they are in the hospital, and they've got all kinds of tubes and things, and it's looking grim. And so your prayers for this person, I'm going to pretend that I'm writing on the board. Here's where your friend is. Here's perfection at this end. And your prayers are about right here on this spectrum. And your prayers are, most of the time, we have prayers of fear. Oh, please just let them walk. Please just let their mind be healed. And that is the frequency that we're actually sending to them, because energy follows thought. Our thoughts create, and the energy follows that. And so we don't want to send that kind of energy to the person. We want to send them the perfection. We want to send them the highest frequency that we can possibly think of. So we want to imagine them the happiest, best state that they've ever been in. Picture them that way and send those loving thoughts to them. So we're going to take that idea, those hopes and dreams, and I teach people, put them into an imaginary rock. And as you pray, I use this with my prayer, I take that rock and I drop it. And I submit that to God. Because then God can heal anywhere on that spectrum. But when I'm praying prayers of fear, that limits God's miracles because of my unbelief. So we have a beautiful scripture. Jesus Christ had all of these incredible miracles, right? But we read, let me find it. In Matthew 13:58, when he went to his own people, and he did not many mighty works there because of their unbelief. Unbelief, not looking for the perfection, is what stops the miracles in our lives. So my method is to truly bring about miracles because of what we're focusing on, that perfection. God may not bring it back exactly as we've envisioned it, but we know without a doubt that there is no unbelief that has stopped the miracle from happening because we've communicated that to God. So I have found that long periods of concentration sometimes are like the monkey with the nut inside the trap. You can't get it out. Or they're not dropping the rock. When you don't drop the rock and you keep saying, I want it, I want it, I want it. Please, Heavenly Father, give me this. We're actually concentrating on the lack of having it. So sometimes short, intentional, perfection prayers are more powerful than concentrating for a great amount of time sending energy to someone. This is weird. I've never talked with a mic before. Okay. So there was a time with my little son, and he had sores all over his mouth. And no matter what I did, as I closed my eyes to flow energy to him, I could not see him in his perfection. I could just see the sores on his mouth. And so the mentor that I had, she taught me that I could pray and I could ask God for a symbol to symbolize something. I was like, okay, I really need something like that I can concentrate on and that can have a great meaning, several different things into this one symbol, and be able to flow that frequency. So I prayed and I asked Heavenly Father something specific. I wanted an image for the perfect child of God. Perfectly balanced mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. And who this child of God was in their perfection as a spirit child. Because I wanted that high frequency to be able to be sent to my son or anyone else that I was working on. So when I did that, I got this image back of the little figure in the center. Sorry, I don't have my big sign. It's straight across the hallway when you go out of the class. So this, can everyone see it? So I loved it because it was so symbolic. Are you okay with that? If I pass it around?
Just walk up the aisle.
I can just walk up the aisle. I think it's long enough. Okay, so if I turn it to the side, it's the Christian fish, right? And if that the arms were to continue to extend, it would be like the infinity symbol. And then it looked to me like this little person was raising its arms in praise to God. And I thought that's what a perfect child of God would be doing. So I started to use that symbol, but I realized it wasn't complete. And so as I prayed again for more information, I realized that a perfect child of God would have a perfect love of serving others, just like Christ did. And so that's what the heart represents. But it still didn't feel complete. And so then I prayed, and I realized that this perfect child of God would have a constant and continuous communication with God the Father, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Ghost. And so if you look at this, it's got 3 lines at the top. And it looks like the person standing in a conduit of that communication with Heavenly Father. So I'll walk back one more time. So this is the symbol that I started to use when I could not picture perfection. So if I'm working on someone's bones, I don't know what perfect bones are supposed to look like, or the muscles or the vessels, and it doesn't matter because God does. And God knows that that's what that perfection symbol means. And so I flow the energy through that symbol and tell it to be perfect. And today, you're going to move bones because it's really cool. Assuming that your partner has bones that need to be moved. The beauty of this method is because our intent should always be to align ourselves with God, have the highest intent for good, we can't harm people. I will tell you that there is one time when I worked on someone that I did not feel better and lighter after I was done working on them. And as a practitioner of this, you should always feel like you've had a session yourself because you're flowing that high frequency energy through you. And so you should feel great when you're done. Well, I didn't. I literally was so exhausted, I could barely get out of bed. And so I prayed and I was like, Lord, why? Why am I so exhausted? And he taught me that although I had an intent to help this person, she was my friend, my greater intent was to impress her. And with that, my will separated from God's. And I was giving her my energy. It was still beneficial to her, but I found that I never wanted to do that again. And I always wanted to have whatever God wanted to be my goal. And so if you're ever flowing energy and you find that you become exhausted, start praying and find out why. The Lord will teach you. So if you look at the logo as well of my company, there are 4 words surrounding it. And the Lord had taught me that is the cycle of healing. So I had for years spent time cleansing, trying to cleanse. My belief was, and a lot of people's belief is, if we get rid of the bad, that the good will automatically come in. And that's not necessarily true. And I didn't have the strength to sustain the kind of cleanses. And I'm talking about cleanses, not just physical cleanses, but trying to get rid of a bad habit. I just didn't have the strength to sustain doing that. And the reason why is because the first step in healing is always to nourish. Nourish yourself physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. For me, a lot of my healing journey has always started with nourishing my mind to understand things better. And as we nourish, we then strengthen ourselves. And then as we become stronger, it's a natural consequence to follow to cleanse, to remove the negative. And then we heal. And then we move on to the next cycle of healing. So nourish, then strengthen, and then cleanse and heal. So that's why there's 4 words around my logo. So why the name My Perfection Healing, especially with the reaction that people have with perfection? I've already talked to you about why, but concentrating on the perfection. But my belief is that we become perfect by following Christ. And in this scripture, Matthew 4:23, it says, "And Jesus went about all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease among the people." If we're truly to emulate Christ, we should be helping others to heal, not just preaching and teaching. There's so much healing that needs to go on in our world to be able to welcome our Savior back. And that is how we become perfected, is following his example. So as we use this method, we become perfected ourselves. And the my is about each student making it theirs. I have my gifts and I have the way that I practice my method. But I have other students who have learned several different modalities, many. And they combine this with the modalities that they know, and they make it their own with the gifts that God has given them. And it's incredible to see. It's been incredible for me to be blessed by these people's lives and see how they take faith, essentially, and make it their own and follow Christ in perfecting their lives. So there is no wrong way to do this, as long as your intent is the highest intent for good. So I'm going to teach you a slightly different method that I usually teach in my beginning class. I'm actually going to teach you a method that I teach in my advanced class. It's a little bit closer to meditation, and it won't take as long. So the first thing I want you to do is thinking about where your consciousness is, your spirit, your thinking. Is it up here? Is it to the side of you? Is it in your head? Some people have it in their heart. I want you each to think about where that is. Raise of hands when you figure out where it is. Because until you know, we can't do this. One more time, raise of hands, and everybody that feels like they know where their consciousness is. Okay, so until you know, you may not be able to proceed with us, but I'm going to proceed with everyone else. Where do you think from right now? Where do you feel your spirit is? Is it inhabiting right here in your body? Do you feel like maybe you're over here? Where are you? Does that help? You can say yes or no. There's no.
I'm not sure.
Does anybody else want to try and explain what I mean, for those of you that do understand?
Like, where's your higher self? Where do you, we all have a spirit self, a spirit body. Not everybody is connected to their spirit body, so sometimes they feel it up above them. Like you said, sometimes they feel it over the side, sometimes it hangs out behind you. So if you've never seen your spirit or feel connected to your higher self, it's probably outside of you. for those who felt like they've connected to it and maybe closer to your center.
So,
It's just more of, for some people it's a feeling, some people they actually can see it. We have one girl in our class who could hear. So
I actually was in a class when we were learning this, and the girl said, I loved her. She had a beautiful British accent. Oh, I'm not here. I'm in Atlantis. We're going, what? Yes, I'm walking there. It's beautiful. We're like, okay, but I'll come back. So bring your consciousness here in the room if you're somewhere else. But what we're going to do is I want you to bring that knowingness, your spirit, and then bring it down into your heart chakra, right here in the center of you. And when you truly bring it down, you should actually feel a physical difference. If any of you have heard of mindfulness, this is called coherence. This is actually a very healthy thing to do, and it's what they teach people with anxiety to be able to do to calm themselves. So you drop that down and just slow your breathing and connect to that. And I want you to think about the thing that you love most. And as you think about that memory, think about it as those waves and that energy literally coming to you. And you're going to bring it however feels comfortable to you, whether that's through your heart and then out back through your heart, or down through your mind, or where your mind should be in your heart, but through your head. And I want you to let that flow through you as if you're a conduit. And then I want you to take your hands and actually hold your hands right there on the outside of your heart. Energy follows thought. So you can put this person that you love the most, not them, but their energy, their essence, their light of Christ that shines. And I want you to put it into a ball. And then I want you to actually start seeing if you can manipulate and feel the edges of where that is. Does anyone feel like they can feel that? Good. Now sorry? Okay. There's a very light pressure. Now, I want you to know that when I did this the first time, I totally thought I was pretending. We did it differently. We drew the energy up through our bodies and then back down through our hands instead of through our hearts. But I was like, yeah, whatever. This is crazy, you know. And I just sat there and I pretended. And it wasn't until they then said, okay, now get with a partner and have that person put their hand into your field and let them tell you about what they feel. And I had put my baby into my energy, and it happened to be that same woman that was in Atlantis. And she said to me, oh, you love this thing. You really take care of it, you nurture it. And I realized I wasn't pretending, that she felt exactly what was in my heart. She felt my baby. So I want you to pick a partner and take turns flowing the thing you love most. And allow your mind to be open when you enter their field. You may feel an emotion. You may think of a color. You may, who knows, just allow your mind to be open and to be able to feel, and then tell them what you're sensing. And then trade. Okay? Is there anyone that doesn't have a partner? Okay.
I'm supposed to say what I feel like.
What are your impressions? Yeah, what do you feel? Do you feel love? Do you feel a specific emotion? Do you...
I felt heaviness, like heavy, almost like grief or...
Is this someone that you've lost?
dark.
No?
Like heavy.
Someone I had to give up for a year.
Okay. So maybe that's what you feel.
I felt brown. Oh.
So there's usually a connection.
That's the dark green. I said dark first.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I imagined my spirit, like it's behind me. And when
Okay.
I tried to pull it in, it came in and then I felt pain and it jumped back out.
Okay.
So how do I
So are you
fix
having a hard time? There's some kind of some negative beliefs that are going on that are keeping your body and your spirit from getting together. And so that just needs to be worked on and healed. Okay?
I do some, but it's hard to work on myself.
Yeah. It's good to have people to be able to work with on it. Yeah. So awesome. No, that's totally fine. I'm not successful if I don't make people cry.
Well, you've now succeeded.
Yes. Awesome.
This is the most bizarre thing. I put my hand in her, and it was very cold, and it was like a cold breeze.
Okay.
And you felt it too.
Yeah.
Did you feel, does that connect with what you were flowing? Is there any kind of, how would that relate?
I just couldn't be mad at him right now.
Just giving him a cold air. Yeah, that could be it, because right now that energy is mixed in with some, that could be. Yeah, so try flowing something different. I mean, just like a different person. Or you could flow a memory. So a really great memory, like if you're really peaceful or really happy or something, and then pick like one element of it, like an emotion, or pick a color and flow that, and then see what she feels from it.
About that same person.
It doesn't have to be about the same person. You can tap into anything, any type of energy. So it could just be this memory, say it's a roller coaster, and so I'm flowing the energy of a roller coaster and laughing my head off, so I put that into it. Or it could be being at the beach, and just having the waves come crashing in. And so it's really interesting to have people, like, for example, one of my good friends, she flowed, and it was a memory, and I put my hand in, and I'm like, feels really clean. Like, that's what I got. She's like, yes, my grandma's house, it was spotless. She's like, her linen cabinets were perfect, and so that
Very organized.
that was the feeling.
Everything down to
Yeah.
every little detail.
Yeah.
It's like, where's this? It's rubber band. Oh, it's in this drawer.
Oh, baby, that's so
It's like, it's in a little container.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you better put that back.
So yeah, so you could flow something like that. If you've had the chance to finish that exercise, I'd like you now to pick a memory and have the memory be something that you had a lot of emotion, maybe very happy or very peaceful or feeling very safe and loved. So pick this memory, and then don't flow several different things because that's more difficult for the person to build, but pick one thing out of that memory. Maybe it's just a color, or maybe it's the crashing waves of the ocean, or maybe it's just feeling safe in the, snuggling with your dad. Something specific like that the person will be able to sense. Does anybody want to share really quick what their experience was with this? Okay, go ahead, come on up. Well, I'll pass the microphone over.
Waddle. Okay. So I met Cindy, and immediately she said this is her first conference. So we both haven't done this technique yet or anything, so we were both really unsure of it. But immediately I just felt like there was such a sweetness, there was such a tenderness. I could not help but start crying. And she did too, and I'm like, I don't know what to make of this, I'm sorry. But she was thinking about her husband, and he was the first person to really love her the way she needed to be loved. And she's like, it's not perfect, but I think that's just marriage, and that's okay. But it was just so sweet. She just has such a deep, sweet feeling about her husband.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Did anyone else want to share? Whoops, I'm sorry. Whoops. Okay, go ahead.
So I tried to tune into the energy that was going on, and at first I saw a dog, and it was something that she liked to do, and at first she didn't think it was necessarily what she was thinking of, but she said it was going on in the back of her mind. And then I saw very clearly the image come forth of her being at the park and with her dog, and she confirmed that the dog I had seen that was white with black spots was actually her dog. Awesome. And that he had ran up to her, but she was feeling. I just wanted to just expose her. I felt it was necessary for me to ask, but she was feeling insecure, and that the dog came up to her and made her feel better. And when I asked her about if she takes the dog out, I just felt all these questions, like just that I had to ask her, coming to my heart that I had to ask. And I asked if she takes him to the park, and she says, well, we live on the mountain, and I said, and then I was able to tune into the dog's need. I asked her then if dog gets to interact with other dogs, and she's like, no, and that the dog, I feel the need that the dog needs to and wants to go and interact with other dogs and to into the park.
Cool.
And so
that's awesome. And thank you for sharing your impressions. And those are the kind of impressions that a lot of people, they want to dismiss. They don't think it's anything important, or it's ridiculous that they're getting eyes. That's the Spirit. The Spirit can communicate those things to you as you listen, and you start to, I didn't know that I could see things with my mind's eye until I started doing this modality. And at first it was just weird. I just had these images pop into my head. And so I started sharing them with my clients, and I found out that they would mean things. They were significant to the person that I was working on. And so as I have continued to ask the Spirit question after question after question, I've been taught what these things mean, what certain things symbolize, and how best to work with them. So this method is incredibly simple, yet extraordinarily powerful. But the Spirit, when you ask the questions, the one who taught me to draw up energy, she would always say, there is more power in the question than in the answer. And that has been a huge, huge help to me.
I apologize. I just wanted to share a few other details of information I thought might be helpful to those who are practicing. I saw another lady putting her hand into the girl's energy, and I thought I wanted to try to do the same thing. So I first sensed around it, then I put my hand in it, and I actually did something which seemed very strange to me, which was I took part of it and I brought it to my nose to smell. And don't know what that does.
I know, I've never had anybody do that before, so.
It helps somehow.
Yeah.
So, I know
Well, and the truth is, we have 5 different senses, and so all of us have different gifts and how to use those different gifts. Just like I talked, I didn't know that I could see things with my mind's eye. And so being open to be taught by the Spirit and how to use the senses and the gifts that God has given us. So go ahead and pick your memory, and then go ahead and flow that and allow your partner to feel that memory. And okay, so pick a memory, whether it's an incredibly peaceful memory, safe memory, happy, whatever you feel drawn to, that you feel like you can really connect to that memory, and then pick something specific out of it and kind of concentrate there for a little bit. And then you can maybe move to another part of it, but flow that particular energy for a while. Like, I love to flow. When I was a young, I don't know, maybe 10 years old, we lived across the street. I grew up in St. George, Utah. We lived across the street from the Red Hill. And so it was this place of safety for me. I grew up with 7 kids in my family, and there was very rarely a time where I could be by myself, but I could escape to the rocks of the mountain and just feel connected to the earth and to Heavenly Father and just be at peace. And so that's what I usually flow when I flow my memory. And it's interesting because some people totally pick up the red rocks like that. Other people are like, is it hot? Yeah, it's St. George. And so pick something, like I said, and flow that for a little bit so that people can experience that. And if they're not getting it, then go ahead and move on to something different. You could just flow the emotion if you want, whatever you'd like. So try that out. We're creating it and then let them feel it. Yeah. So we're creating it and then letting our partner feel that, if I wasn't clear about that. Yeah, putting it into your hands and then letting your partner feel that energy, and they'll share again with you what their impressions are. Okay, it looks like most people are done. I want to move on to this next one because I want to make sure we have enough time for this next exercise. So, in this next exercise, we are going to have your partner is going to find the top of their hip bones. And the way that you do this, I can do this. Can you show? So you find your belly button with both hands, and then you take it around to the back of you, and you find the top of your hip bones. And as best as you can, keep your thumbs straight so that your partner sitting there can look straight on and see if your hips are actually misaligned. Yeah, so the person that's measuring their hips needs to stand. The person that's going to be flowing the energy needs to be sitting so that they can see straight on. So find your belly button, go around to the back with your thumbs, and find the top of those hip bones. And then hold them for your partner to look to see if you are misaligned on your hips. All the way. And see if you can tell if your hips are misaligned, if you can feel the difference. Once you can verify whether they're misaligned or not, okay, I want the person who is the beneficiary to pay attention while the person is flowing energy and see if you actually feel the shift. When this happened for me the first time, I literally felt like my leg was growing. It was incredible. And it's quick. It doesn't take, sometimes it can shift within 30 seconds. So what I want the person flowing energy to do is bring your consciousness down, flow out of your heart. Who was in Courtney Beardall's where she talked about the earth? Okay? The earth has its own energy, and it's a very powerful physical energy. I love the symbolism of Mother Earth that nurtures us, feeds us, gives us everything we need, shelters us, and that recycles our waste and makes beautiful things out of it. So that Mother Earth energy is what I want you to ask to come to you, because I use it a lot. It's actually my go-to. It's the first thing I generally use until I'm prompted to use a different energy, because it can bring very quickly physical shifts for people. So connecting to that Mother Earth energy, and then with your hands, you don't even necessarily have to touch them. You can just have your hands right here, or very gently on their hips, and communicate. Be perfect. And just continue to flow that. And then see if your partner feels a shift in their hips. When you finish, I want the person to remeasure so that you can look and see if you've been effective. If they have not completely leveled, then continue to flow more energy. You feel it, don't you? Isn't it amazing? So measure it again. That's really powerful. Okay, so measure with your belly button and put your thumbs all the way back until you find the top of those hip bones. And then one of you needs to be sitting down to look at the other person so that you can see more straight on. Are they even? Yeah, see if they're off.
Did you get that? Okay.
So when you're done with your partner, go ahead and have them do it to you. Okay. So, right there. Can you feel that? They're a lot higher than you think they are. Sorry.
Yeah, they hurt.
Is it yeah. Take advantage of it while you can, yeah. So it looks like most people are getting done. Is that true? If you're finished, please sit down so I can see who. Okay, would anyone like to share their experience? Whether you felt the energy actually shifting and moving, or you're proud of yourself because you just moved bones. Well, do you want to share? Go ahead. Stand up.
Generally, I think I'm faking everything all the time. But no, when Linnell did it, it really was like like how you said.
Like your leg grew.
Yeah. But I feel like I have like a lack of faith in my ability to do it, and I wasn't really sure what I'm supposed to be doing, and so I'm thinking of these green thoughts and these Mother Earth thoughts, and
Okay.
oh, please. And thinking of the love that I have for like Linnell as a friend, and just trying to send that. And then when she said, I felt something, I'm like, oh, I did it. It worked. Yay.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone else want to share? Okay. Okay. When I teach my normal class, I teach to draw up. And then we come up and I teach it more with our breathing. We just don't have the time to do all this. But it's connected to our breathing. So as we inhale, we're drawing up the energy. We swirl it and create a reservoir up here above our heads. And then as we exhale, we're bringing it out our hands. So it was just too long of an approach. And I knew that heart-mind energy can be done more quickly. But I actually, when I work, I flow a combination of the two. So it's, and then like in my normal class, I will teach different breathing types to be able to bring more power to the flow of energy, depending on if there are blocks.
Heart-mind energy, that was just concentrating and saying be in perfection.
Heart-mind energy is still flowing. I still flow the same way. And honestly, now I don't even think of drawing it up. It's just there. As soon as I know I need to connect to something, it's like driving home. You don't think anymore about, well, I've got to turn here and then I've got to take a left. it's just natural. So when I flow energy now, it's there in my hands or in my heart, if that's my intent. Does that make sense? So I have taught my body that that's how I draw up energy. As I inhale, I'm drawing it up, and as I exhale, it's flowing out. But I have a constant reservoir going. So if you know how a bagpipe works, they fill up the bag and they're able to press on it, and it's a continual flow of air, and then they just continue to fill up the bag to make sure the reservoir's there. Same idea. It's just keeping, so every time I'm inhaling, I'm not just, the energy isn't going, okay. It's a flow. It's a continuous flow. So any other questions? Okay.
Sometimes I am so deep in thought that I stop breathing.
Yeah.
So I got scared at first because I thought, oh no, like, what's happening? But my sister told me that sometimes she gets so deep into thought that she'll forget to breathe, and then it helped me to see what was really happening, and it comforted me so that I wasn't scared of what I was doing. So if you lose your breath sometimes or have that going on,
breathe.
Breathe. Yeah, don't be scared. Just
Yeah. So breathing is definitely tied to the energy that we're drawing up. So, how much time do we have left? We've got 6 minutes left, so not much time. We can either flow something new, or you can ask me questions. Question. Yeah.
I don't know if you have like a pointer or some kind of advice, because when I was trying to feel her flow, I could literally feel it on my hand, the energy, whether it was warm or whether it was cold or the pressure, but I had a hard time discerning what the memory was or what the emotion was. But I could feel it.
Okay, so you could actually feel the energy movement, but not connected to it. Is it harder for you to feel those types of things yourself? Do you tend to shut down emotions and? Oh, yeah. Okay, that might be why it's more difficult to feel. Okay. So, Jackie.
And this goes more to answer his question, is that we all have different natural spiritual gifts and tendencies. And so if you're somebody who's more feeling oriented, you're not going to get information in terms of an image. It's going to be a feeling or a sensation. Whereas somebody like you who's more visual will see pictures and see things. And so for everybody, it's something different. And I took today's class last night, and we had a girl in our class who every time energy shifted, she would hear a pop or crackling in her ears. And so everybody has different natural tendencies, and so it's not a right or a wrong. When I was working with my friend Michelle, she's like right on. She's like telling me stuff. I'm like, oh man, okay. Where she's like, I think a lot of your stuff's metaphorical. And so it's not right or wrong, it's just what you pick up. And learning to be comfortable with where your spiritual gifts are at and what your natural tendencies are to receive information.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Other questions? Okay.
So how do you use this book to help somebody?
Okay. So I sell a book here that is over 1,000 categorized negative and positive beliefs. It can be, any modality can use it. I mean, if they're conscious of releasing and then replacing emotions, it's much the same way. In my modality, I teach kind of a mixture of flowing energy. So the practitioner will flow energy to the person. They muscle test to find the negative belief. And then the person will audibly say, even though I feel that I'm not good enough to receive love, I choose to believe, and then they say the positive. And then we remove that negative belief. They continue saying it until it feels false, and then until the positive feels like it's now true. And so that is what I teach a lot in my advanced class. I also teach trauma. My husband is a psychologist and took a 3-year training on how to heal trauma, dealing from a physiological standpoint. So when trauma happens, we have trapped emotions, we have trapped negative beliefs, but we have trapped sensations and movements, because that is the language of our survival brain. And so when we are literally in a fight or flight thinking brain, we don't have emotions and we don't have thoughts. We literally just sense. So think 5 senses, and we move. So that's a huge part of finishing trauma, is understanding that there's sensations and movements associated with traumatic experiences. And it's just, I love teaching about that. Go ahead.
His wrist is literally locked in his elbow, so this is how he does. Oh, sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
Okay, so he's literally locked at the wrist and the elbow, and he can't move it. And he's been diagnosed as rheumatoid arthritis, which I told him you do not have rheumatoid arthritis. You have a lot of emotion that are restricting your movement. And so, but I'm wondering, with the trapped sensations and movement, I haven't tested him yet. Have you found that with people that have lack of motion, that this, is that something that you see frequently?
Yeah, it can manifest in all different kinds of ways. It can manifest as serious autoimmune diseases for prolonged trauma, because what happens is your brain records every single thing that's happening during that trauma. It records how your body moves, what you were smelling, what you were eating, what you were seeing, what you were hearing. And if you get into a similar situation and you haven't healed that trauma, your brain goes, oh, this is dangerous. And it starts picking up everything else that's recorded from this new event. And so people can start to have anxiety and go, well, this used to bother me, but now this does, and now it's getting worse, and now this is triggering me. Why am I? It's because this initial trauma has now become global, because they haven't been able to finish, and the brain continues to try to save them, to protect them.
So is that an attachment to these movements and sensations? They're attached to it? So you're disconnecting them?
No, the body actually needs to finish the sensation. So if I tell you, you hear something really horrible, your body takes that in as a sensation first. You feel sick to your stomach. And then it travels to the brain, and it's interpreted into sorrow or horror or whatever the emotion might be. Emotion is a secondary thing. So the sensation, what we are actually have a hard time with isn't feeling the emotion. It's feeling the actual sensation that comes first. And so when we have had a trauma and our brain starts to recognize this particular sensation is dangerous to feel, the brain shuts it down and never even interprets it into an emotion. And we just know we've been triggered. Now we're in fight or flight, we're anxious, and we don't know why. Because it's never turned it into an emotion for us. Did you have a question? You're just doing, sorry. I didn't know if you were raising your hand. Okay. So you mean the sensation? Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll see someone and they'll be talking about something that's traumatic. Maybe they start to cry, and I will actually have them stop and say, okay, where do you feel that right now? And a lot of the time it'll be here in the chest. Sometimes, I feel my heart beating. Oh, my breathing's getting shallow. And so I have them allow that to stay there and just sense it. It's almost like you kind of just become an observer of what's happening in your body. And as you do that, your central nervous system will start to regulate and go, oh, this is okay to feel. And so it helps heal. You don't even necessarily have to heal the trauma. You start healing what's happening right now, because that's what teaches your central nervous system. This is okay to feel. I'm all right. And so we get charged and we discharge. And we get charged. This happens every day, up and down, up and down. But when people have trauma, they get charged, and they're like, oh, that's not safe to feel, and they shove it down, and they don't allow that energy to flow through. And so it's stuck. And then it continues to re-traumatize.
So you just allow them to feel that?
I allow them to feel that, like don't talk anymore, or have them actually describe the sensation. Sensations can be heat. The movements could be kicking, yelling, screaming, curling into a ball, running, all fight or flight, punching. And so having them, I really want to create a trauma class where, say, people have had some kind of an assault, And they have difficulty if people get into their bubble. And so, is it okay if I practice on you? Okay, so if she was to have had that trauma, I would approach her until she felt like she wants to shove away, and allowing her to act that out and saying whatever words, because words, talking, they're actual movements. Our vocal cords move, and so that can be trapped within us. And so allowing people to work through those things, it's really powerful.
So after you get rid of the sensation, do you reduce the trauma? Do you,
Well, that is the trauma. Trauma is something that has not been finished. So whatever happened, either like a car accident, the person didn't get to protect themselves because the car accident happened too quickly. So you allow them to finish those sensations and movements, remove the emotions that might have come secondarily, and the beliefs, because we like to have beliefs to make sense of chaos, right? So we often adopt negative beliefs, thinking that it will protect us. And so releasing. So I teach what I call the SEMBI approach. So sensation, emotion, movement, beliefs, and images, meaning sensory images. So smells, sounds, actual images, all those sensory things can trigger. And they're a great vehicle to help allow the person to experience the sensation. So all this is covered in my advanced class. Any other questions? I think we might be out of time, but yeah, we're over. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here today.